Shalom to you all, and thank you for joining this series of Love from Genesis. Our goal in this series is to go through some of the stories in the book of Genesis, Sefer Bereshit, and to learn from those stories ideas we can use in marriage and love. Many of the stories talk about relationship between husband and wife, man and woman, family dynamics, and our goal is to reveal them and to be able to apply the lesson in our own lives. But let's begin from the beginning. The beginning, God created the world in 6 days, and God rested on the seventh day. Just before the seventh day, on the sixth day, God created man. Very interestingly, the story of creation of man, or man and woman, appears twice in the book of Genesis. Once in chapter 1 and the second in chapter 2. And if we look carefully, we will notice that there are quite a few differences between the first story and the second story. It seems like as if each story is telling us something totally different. Let's go into them and find out the differences and what do they mean. Chapter 1. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So here we have a very known idea of God creating man in the image of God. What exactly does it mean, the image of God? That's a great question. We notice here the words, the words in this story move from single to plural. And we also have terms which aren't used so often in the Bible. I'm reading it again. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. We have here a duplicate part in this story. But it says created he him as something single. And then all of a sudden we move to a plural, male and female. And the verse ends with a plural word, created he them. So we begin with a single language and we move to male and female and we end with them. Now, male and female isn't such a common term in the Bible to describe a man and a woman. We usually use the term man or woman, or man and woman. Male and female seems something very technically. It's almost the same as being animals, which have male and females. So why do we use here this language of male and female? Let's go to the next story, and that story is even more puzzling. And the Lord God, all of a sudden, here we have a different language referring to God, and the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone." In the next class, we will refer to the term not good. What is defined as good and what is considered not good. We'll have to wait for that for next time. So I make him help to match him. And that sounds the beginning of the story, how man was created, or how the woman was created from the rib of the man. And all of a sudden, the story changes a direction. And from man and woman, we move to the animals. And out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird in the air and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. I'm a bit confused. Aren't we talking about the idea that it is not good for man to be alone? Why are we mixing up here the idea of the animals? And we continue. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. So here we have the possibility that man can give names to every creature. And the man gave names to all of the cattle and the birds of the air and to every beast in the field. And if we thought that we are mixing up between two stories of creating a woman and bring the woman to man, and then we transferred to the animals, here now we come back and make it really a salad of different ideas. But for the man, there was not found a help to match him. So for some reason, we started with man, went to animals, and got back to man again. So since there's no one to match him, God has to create something new. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man. And he slept, and he took one of his sides and closed up the flesh in its place. And of the side which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made a woman and brought her to the man. So finally now we have man and woman, and now man wakes up, Adam wakes up, and the man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This is now, we understand that until now he was missing something. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. And in Hebrew and in English and other languages too, the words man and woman are very, very similar. And the story ends up with, that is why a man leaves his father and his mother and he clings or connects to his wife and they become one flesh. So we have here something interesting in this story, and then we'll compare both of them together. We start from man, move to animals, and then we go back to man again. We start with the search. It's not good for man to be alone, and then we go through all of the animals, and then go back to man. Now, I would assume that maybe God was looking for a wife or someone to be a help for the man out of the animals. That's what it seems like the story is telling us. But isn't that strange? We expect a giraffe, a male giraffe, to live with a female giraffe. And so we also expect a cow to breed together with an ox. And all the animals, it's the same. How come by man, all of a sudden, God searches and man is part of this search, looking through all the animals, giving them name and realizing, I am alone. It's not good for man to be alone. Why is that like that? Another interesting point to notice here, in the first story, we called the man and woman as male and female. Here, all of a sudden, they're called, like the regular word we use, man and woman. And another question. In the first story, in chapter 1, it said that God created man or male and female. What happened now? Where did that female disappear to, that he has to put man to sleep, into a deep sleep, take one of the sides off, create the woman? What exactly is happening here? And a very common explanation, very nice explanation, which I like, teaches us maybe the history or the way we build our personality and love. Let's start from the end. When is man called, or when does he have the image of God? When does man have the image of God? The answer is, when man and woman are together, that is when they have the image of God. When they become one, when we unite, exactly like God is united. When we unite, that is when we are one. God created man and woman, female and male, as they should be, united in the image of God. But they were connected to each other on the side, maybe back to back. They were not able to face each other, to talk to each other, to love each other, to separate from each other. So they had the image of God, but they did not have any personality. They're called male and female, a technical definition of the creatures that were just created. male and female. And we move from single to plural. It's two in one. So we can say in the same sentence, him or them. It is him and it is them. It's two in one body. Two in one body without any personality. And that isn't good. The way to create love is when each side has its uniqueness. And we'll continue, we'll expand this in the next time. So God has to separate them. When we move to the terms man and woman, or in Hebrew, ish or isha, it means each one has the personality, that person for themselves. To come to love, we need to be separated. We need to be our own. Is there a difference between love of people and love of the animals? And the answer in the story is, of course, you can't even compare. The second story begins with God saying, it is not good for the man that he's alone. And what does he do? He brings all the animals in front of the first man, in front of Adam, and he looks at all the animals. He looks at how they live together, and he realizes my way of relationship, the way we human have marriage, is totally different than all of the animals. It's not just so we can produce the next generation. It's not just so we can live together. We are creating something totally new, totally different, uplifted than maybe the love or the animals living together. They live together, we have love. We become one. So that's why God brings all the animals in front of the first man. So he can look at it and see, we are different. I'm different. What's good for them, it's not good for me. We need something else inside our relationship. God separates man and woman. Those two in one, which were created in the first story, are now separated. Each one has now its own personality. When Adam sees the woman, he says, this is now bone of my bones. In the beginning, we were connected. Our souls are connected. Now each one is separated. But our goal again is to become one. This is our goal, to become one. This is how we human beings are different than the animals. Animals live with each other. Some of them can live with each other for the whole lives, but there's never a goal of two becoming one. Here, for Adam, with the image of God, with man, a woman with the image of God, the idea is to go back and receive this image when two become one. Not just by soul, by living with each other, with all aspects, the physical aspect, the spiritual aspect, when all of them bond to each other, then we become one. And that's the ending verse of the story. That is why man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh. Love is something which we use many times, but it is very hard to define. What do we define love? And the answer we get from this story is when two realize that somewhere deep inside they belong to each other. They're really part of each other. And nature has separated them many times for good. We want man and woman, we want each one of them to have their own personality. We don't want them to stay as a male and female. We want each one to have his own attributes, his own family story, his own strengths. We want them to contribute whatever they can to the marriage, and they have to be separated to do it in this unique way. But moving towards becoming one with all the parts of our body, with the soul, with the body, by action, by thought, by feelings. That is what makes us one. So the definition of love based on this story is this inner drive to become one again.